Hey guys, in this video we're going to do the brutal review for the Arrma Senton 3S. You know, that little monster is a lot of fun to play with. It's super fast and it's kind of sketchy to watch run, but I got to tell you, I've had this car longer than I've had my channel, which has given me plenty of time to beat it around, trash on it, and see just what it's made of. Now, the yellow one on the bench here, this one's my personal car. This one, modified. This one here, this belongs to a friend of mine, and it is stock out of the box. There's only 3 runs on it. The yellow one, on the other hand, we've changed the parts that are necessary to make it tough, because if you watch my channel, you know I'm not nice to these things. Okay, so in this video, we're going to get it on the bench. We're going to show you what we had to change. I'll explain why. Then we're going to take this one out, and we are going to run it, and we're going to run it hard. Now, the beautiful part of this is I don't pad my videos. So if it runs good, it ran good. If it crashes, you'll see it in the video, and I'm not the kind of guy that's going to shoot the same corner a dozen times to try and get that perfect look. I'll hit it maximum 2 times and move on. So if it looks cool in the video, that's because it was cool to start with. Okay, so I'm not the kind of guy that builds videos to make them look cool. They either look cool or they don't. I just mix them so they're entertaining. Okay, so when we're done with the run, we'll bring it back in. We'll show you what broke, if anything did. We'll show you what parts we had to put on it, and so forth. Then, when we're done with the review, and we will give you the review, we're going to rate this on 4 different categories, but only 3 of them get points, and this is 1 to 10. Number 1, was it fun? Number 2, was it durable? Number 3, was it worth the money? And number 4, and this one doesn't get the points, but this one is, where does it stack up in my collection? So let's get this little monster on the bench, let's get the cover off, and let's see what it's made of. Okay, so let's set this one aside, and let's go ahead and get inside of this one here. Okay guys, so down inside here, we did have to replace this drive line right here. Got something jammed in there and it melted through and burned it up right there. So this is a new piece here. Also, we upgraded the servo. This is 25 kilogram servo. It's got a 4S speed control in it from Hobby Wing. This is a pretty good unit. We added a fan to the motor because it is running the stock motor and it's running the stock gearing. But if you run up to 4S, this could need that extra power there. Also, this car is sporting the RPM arms on it. So these are a lot more durable. I broke several of these when they were the stock arms, and I haven't broke one of these yet. Now this could change today, but as it stands, I have yet to break one of these. Also on the back, you'll see a T-Bone Racing rear bumper. And this rear bumper is a really nice feature. It's made out of pretty tough material, and it works as a skid plate to keep the front wheels down. Also in the slipper unit here, we changed out the plastic gear for a steel gear. So it's a little noisier now when you move it, but it's a lot more durable. I've stripped a couple of those out. This one here, still holding up nicely. Also, we upgraded the shock absorbers all the way around. We put the big bore shocks on it, and it made a pretty significant difference. The stock ones have a tendency to leak, and that they're just a plastic shock that comes on that. And let's show you the other one just to give you a comparison on how that works. So here's one with the stock shock absorbers on it. And as you'll see, they're just plastic. They're rather cheap. They look pretty good out of the box and they do seem to work okay, but they leak and they do lose a lot of fluid. These are a little denser, a little more, they're a little tighter. They don't bounce as easily as that. These actually do the job they're supposed to. It does make it run a little flat and they might be a little thick on the oil, but I like the way it responds. On top of that, we did add a new piece of plastic here. This is Teflon, and it absorbs more impact. We shatter these on the regular. Also, this one still has the STX2 radio in it, and this one has an upgraded radio, so it's faster. Car for car, pretty nice. Subtle changes, but they make a pretty big difference. Okay guys, so there you have it, the Senton 3S. This thing's modified and ready to go, but I do want to swap this out, which is my new Shelf Queen body. And you know, it doesn't have any mileage on it yet, but let's go ahead and switch it for this one. This is my Basher body, and it's actually the same design as that one. It's just got some mileage on it. So this is the one you'll see in the video. There we go. Now, the Senton 3S is ready to go. So let's take it out and see what it can do.
Oh, that's better. Oh, hell yeah. There, it blew the tire off. Oh!
We have a vibration problem.
We have a slightly out of balance issue going right there, a little out of balance issue.
Holy crap.
Okay guys, we're back from our run and we've had a really good time playing with it. Now, I didn't shoot quite as much video for this one as I have other cars because I've run this car so much that it was really unnecessary. You just had to be able to see how it moved and how it handled the cartwheels and crashes. Now, we did have some issues with it on this timeout, but what I have learned I will share with you. Check this out. Okay, so we get the body off of this thing and we'll show you the damage that's deep inside of it. And we had a lot of fun with this car, but of course it's made of plastic and you have problems. So the first thing was we broke the shock loose on the left side there and it tore that connecting end off. It also bent the shock pretty well. However, that wasn't too tough to straighten out with the vise and, you know, a little pry action. On top of that, we also got a hold of one of those drive axles in the front and we destroyed that completely. Now this is still on the front of the car, but it's pretty well toast. Here's the parts you're going to need. Okay, so now checking everything once we put it in. We put new aluminum ends on. I don't have the part number for those. We had them in the kit. So also, now to the back, take a look at what we did to the tires here. And there's the part number for those. And these ones are actually pre-vented from the outside, which is really nice for the new tires. The ones that came on the car weren't. You see that the suspension is still free, but we did absolutely destroy the rear shock tower, ripping the shock completely off. The shock itself is undamaged, but the tower paid the price. And this gave us the chance to take it apart and get everything checked out really good. Arms were good, the outer hub carriers were good, the differential, a really tough differential. It held up really nicely and it gave us a chance to go ahead and put a whole service on the rear end. And there's the completed project. Everything looks pretty nice, all the shocks attached properly, and we took the advantage to go ahead and change the shock fluid from 50 back to 25. So now it's got a lighter fluid in it, which allows the rear end to travel and the front end to travel a little easier. That being said, I've always really enjoyed playing with this car. It's crazy, it's small, it's fast, and it's really overpowered for its footprint. Now this is, of course, 10th scale. And it's one of those cars, you know, the plastic chassis cars, they're really tough, but it does have a few problems. down inside the steering, and I don't know if I can get you down in here close enough to see this. Let's see if I can get you a good shot. But down inside here, where this goes through the chassis up underneath in here, it's kind of a little bucket. So it's a little area in there about yo big, and it holds on to dirt and gravel. Yeah, there's a hole in the bottom, but any rocks of size get trapped in there, and then the wheels will not turn. So the arm slides over, you know, and it has clearance in there, but once you dump a rock in there, it stops it, and the servo saver takes up the slack, but it will not turn left or right depending on where you have your debris jammed in there. And I've noticed that this is kind of a constant thing for most of the 3S cars. The plastic chassis are super tough. The car itself, it's really durable overall. It does have a few weak points. One weak point to this car are the arms. Now, the original arms that I had on the car, I broke them over and over. And I was really frustrated with that until I bought the RPM stuff. And of course, that's the RPM stuff right there. And they do fit, but they don't fit directly. And what I mean by that is, when you go to fit these tires or these arms on the vehicle, you're going to have a problem with getting them to fit between the blocks. Now, the pin goes through the arm and it hooks into the blocks as normal, but they're a little bit wide. So when you go to work them in there, they bind and they don't fit quite right. That's where the sandpaper comes in. Place a piece of sandpaper on the table, take the edge of your arm and just sort of file it down a little bit until you get it to fit in there. And it's really important that you make that arm move freely. Now, in the video, I was running it with 50 weight oil in the shocks. That made it nice and tight. And on a flat course, that works really well. It limits the sway. It does take bumps. It doesn't recoil real fast. So that does work, but it makes it squirrely. It's really kind of skittish when you get one tire making contact and the other one lifts, and it'll pull the car sideways. And if you've seen in the video, I was having a little bit of an issue driving it this time. So I switched it back to 25 weight oil, and it made all the difference. Now at 25 weight, the suspension moves a lot more like the factory weight oil, and it makes a pretty good difference in the car. So my recommendation on that, for control in rough terrain, you want a fairly light oil, something that will allow the suspension to travel evenly over rough terrain so that the suspension can get back down and get traction with the ground. If you have too stiff of oil, it'll bounce over things, other tires will get grip, and you'll get out of control like that. Also, a little car like this would really benefit from a gyro radial if you can get one in it. I did upgrade this one, and it's got the Dumbo RC on it. Now this is one I use in several of my cars, Limitless, Creighton, it's got the Senton on it. This one I use in a lot of my cars, and the reason I use this is, one, it's cheap as hell. I mean, you have to wait for them to come in because they do come in from China, but it's really a quick radio. And what I mean is, when you give it input, it's almost instantaneous that the car does what you tell it to. So your connection to the car feels a lot more stable. When you make the car go left, it goes left. When you make the car go right, it goes right. And when you jam on the brakes, it stops where you want it to. So this is a big advantage, but it's not the only option out there. The offerings from Spectrum right now are pretty impressive, and you can get the gyro versions for well under $200. And if you look on eBay, you can find deals and save even more. So it's up to you to look for those and see what they are. If you do, for example, a search on the Arrma Felony radio system, it'll tell you what you need for the receiver and what transmitter, which is the DX3. Now, you get the DX3 with the gyro receiver, sync it into your car. This could be every bit as controllable as one of the larger cars. Now, keep in mind, this is a small car, so it swaps ends really fast. It's, like I say, when I first got started with this, and that's the wrong way to put that. When I started back in on this, because I've been doing this for well over 35 years, but when I started in with the new Arrma stuff, because I was so impressed with the durability, this was one of the first ones I got. Yes, I got the Creighton first, and I did get the version 4, but this one was second. And I came out and got this thing because I went to the hobby store and I asked one of the guys there, I says, hey, look, if I gave you the money right now, which car would you pick to take home? And he pointed to that one. So we grabbed it because the interest was there, and I figure if he was that enticed by this car, perhaps I would be too. When I first started playing with it, I'd never seen a car as off the chain as this little monster. And I call it a little monster because it really is that. It's crazy fast, it's rough, it's durable, and when you switch out the arms and change out the shock absorbers, those are really the weak points in the car. The rest of it are pretty strong. Now, we did change out to a steel spur gear in the slipper, and that's only because I was wearing the other ones out so fast. I went through 2 or 3 of those, and I just finally went to Hot Racing and I ordered the right one for the car. Since I did that, and when I had it apart, I went ahead and I put the sealed bearings in it, and that helped. Also, on the bottom here, and right up in this corner, I'll show you what it is, but we went ahead and we taped over that bottom gap that's underneath here. And the problem with that gap is, I understand why they do it, because there's a cavity in the car and it's supposed to seal, but it doesn't. Fine dust and debris get down in there. So when you take this out and use a decent thick tape, not like duct tape, but kind of like heavy packaging tape or something of that nature, tape that over, leave a little room for the gear when you do it. It'll still slide in like normal, but it prevents the dirt and debris from getting in there, which means your maintenance cycle is going to be a lot longer than if you don't. So if the dirt gets in there, keep in mind guys, it gets in the bearings too. So that means you can have frustration with the bearing in there. Things don't want to roll like they're supposed to because they get gummed up. So you'll have to pull it apart more often. Taping that over seems to alleviate that. Also, when you're done running this thing, no matter how you clean it, and you can clean it any number of ways. I'm prone to using the hose on the bigger cars. I like to blow things off with the air compressor when I can. Of course, never blow straight on the speed control. You can force things down into it in weird spots that you wouldn't expect. Overall, that's pretty much it. If you are going to use water, try not to spray it directly on the speed control or the radio box. However, if you do go the route of the Spectrum radio, those new receivers are waterproof, like stick them on something and they're good to go. I completely submerged my laser nut. I mean, you couldn't even see the car, and I pinned it and it came out of the water, and the whole thing was completely submerged, and the radio, which was not in a radio box, had absolutely no reaction to that. It did exactly what I wanted it to. We came home, cleaned it off, I checked it, and everything was 100% still, and it had been basically dropped in a bathtub and soaked. So the new receivers are really impressive. So if you're going to go ahead and upgrade this, I really recommend you get one that has that capability, because no matter what brand you like, if you get one that's truly waterproof, you'll be happy in the long run. Okay, so it's time to get on to our 4 questions. Of course, those questions are: is it fun? Is it durable? Is it worth the money? And how does it stack up? So here we go. Question 1, is it fun? Yes, this little monster is a blast to play with. And I know I say that a lot, but really I buy cars that work for me. So if I buy a car, generally I'm excited about it in the first place. Is this thing fun to play with? Absolutely. It is so fast. It is so energetic at 3S. And really, if you pay attention to the video, the parts where I was in the park and I was just running, I just got in a corner and I played for a battery and I had a good time, and I did break some parts in the front. But that's okay. I mean, that's to be expected. But that part, I was running that car at 50% and it was still sketchy to drive. And that's 3S at 50% on the radio. And so imagine how fast that thing is at 100%. Now, when we got to the grassy area and we were up in the rock pile, I had her cranked up to 100%. And of course, I did a few wheelies and I did a few high-speed runs, and there went the back tires. So I'm dead serious when I tell you, these tires really don't hold up very well to the 3S platform. However, if you meter it, and what my experience is, if you run that at 75%, it's crazy, but it does seem to hold up for the tires a little better. So if you upgrade the tires to something from Proline or pick something you like, see if it's a little more durable. odds are that's going to hold up to the RPMs a little better than these ones. However, is this thing fun? Yes, it's fun. And how would I rate this? You know, for fun, in the fun scale, and since I've got into the big cars, and I like the bigger ones, you know, the X-Max is one of my favorites, the Creighton, the Laser Nut, all of these are some of my top cars. This one, of course, is 10th scale, and the reason the Laser Nut winds up in the top of my grouping is it actually is larger than some of my 8th scale cars, which is crazy considering it's 10th scale. However, this is a true 10th scale car, and it's a lot smaller, and to me it feels a bit more like a toy. And it's crazy fast and it's a good time, but it really does, it hits me as a toy now that I have the bigger cars. So for that reason alone, I'm going to go ahead and give this one 7 out of 10 for fun. Question 2, is this thing durable? Well, you know, right out of the box it was okay, but on the first battery I did rip this whole right front end apart, and all I did was land just a little crooked. So as far as durability goes, the arms and the outdrive units right here, the C carriers and that stuff, they do kind of have some weaknesses to them. I mean, I wasn't going all that fast. I cleared a small hump and just came down on the corner a little bit. It should have been able to take that, but it broke it, and I broke it several times the same basic way. And you know, that really is going to ding the durability. However, once you upgrade your components and you put your RPM arms on it, upgrade the servo and that type of thing so your control's a little bit better, because keep in mind this comes with the terrible Spectrum radio that came with a lot of the Arrma cars at the time. This has a lot better durability now that it's been upgraded. You change the shocks out because the plastic ones leak, and they also are a little bit fragile because they're plastic. So once you upgrade the shocks, you upgrade the arms, and you upgrade that gear inside the slipper, it made it a pretty bulletproof car. But that's not the way it came out of the box. Nowadays, that thing, I have no trouble pinning it. The only thing I worry about are the tires. So on this one, I'm going to have to give it 7 out of 10 for durability because of the weak points within the car. And question number 3, is it worth the money? Now, this is subjective because, you know, these aren't overly expensive. As far as if you're comparing that to the price of a Creighton or an X-Max, this is definitely a much cheaper way to go. You get the speed and performance. It handles grassy areas really well. It's outstanding on asphalt. It does have a tendency to pitch and roll a little like most of the short course trucks will. But overall, keep in mind, I'm still running the stock motor in this, and it's still crazy enough to burst the tires. I did change out the speed control, and it's not that the other one burned up. I really wanted to try this thing on 4S, so I upgraded the speed control for that reason. The other one was still functioning just fine. In fact, I stuck it in a friend's car so he could get on with his game. Also, I did change out the servo. We were having troubles with losing control when you get debris down in there, and it just seemed a little bit slow for what the car needed. But as far as right out of the box, and that's this one, out of the box, that's the one you get, okay? That little car is outstanding out of the box. Yes, you're gonna probably have to upgrade a few items in the long run, but for the price, you get a ready-to-run car. You need to buy your own batteries, charger, and you'll need some batteries for the receiver. But it does come as a ready-to-run kit, and it's impressive when you pull the trigger. And so for that, I would have to say value, as far as is it worth the money, I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10. And question number 4, how does this stack up in my collection? And you know, there was quite a while there before I got the bigger cars when it would have rated pretty high. But being 10th scale and the way it handles and the way the other cars perform, I'm going to have to sit this one towards the center, and I'm going to make this one 11th place. And what that means is that if I'm taking cars out and I don't have a specific need for this car, in other words, if I'm not going out to run oval track with my friends or something like that, this would be the 11th car I would choose to grab. Number 1 always goes first, number 2 goes with it, number 3 goes with that if I'm taking 3 cars, unless I'm doing a specific video for a specific car. So that being said, the Senton 3S from Arrma rates number 11. Hey guys, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It's awesome when you do, and you know our subscriber rate is starting to grow, and I'm really excited about that. I want to thank everybody that's already subscribed, and I want to welcome everybody who's choosing to subscribe, because it means a lot to us, and it lets us know what direction we're going and if we're doing the right thing here. Now, it's true, you can't please everyone, and keep in mind that all of this is my opinion, and it's the way I run my cars. You can think I'm right, you can think I'm wrong. It's all good, because at the end of the day, it's strictly opinion. So if you're going to get all butthurt about a rating I give about a car, that's fine. That's my opinion. That shouldn't affect yours. If this is your absolute favorite car and it's top of the pile, right on. What I normally say to stuff like that is, if the car is cool enough to thrill you, you have the right car. So this is AJ from AJJAMStudios saying, keep bashing, guys.